Hi everyone, welcome to Silver Values. Today I want to about Xpeng. This is a Chinese electric vehicle manufacturer that is producing cars for China, very much like NIO, which we all probably know very well. And this is a company that has done so well, so it's hard not to know NIO because its share price moved from like $2.40 to like $44. So a really impressive gain. And it's just showing the potential of electric vehicles for the future. And if we look at NIO's current valuation, it's $68 billion, whereas currently Xpeng's valuation is $27 billion. And in the space of a very short amount of time, it's gone from about $18 in September to $38 right now. So yeah, like we look at the current momentum of these companies, and it is very immense. But I think what's more immense is that, hey, NIO's had a really big leg up because it's been producing cars much longer, and it's got a lot more vehicles out this year. So if we look at the amount of vehicles NIO has produced this year so far, up to November, they've produced 36,721 vehicles year to date. There's still one more month to go, so NIO is looking like they'll produce up to a 40,000 target. And currently Xpeng's produced 21,041 vehicles year to date, and still one more month to go. So they're looking like they would be around that 25,000 mark. But what really has me excited about these companies is Xpeng is making a massive catch up in terms of how much it's producing. It produced 4,224 vehicles in November, whereas NIO produced 5,291 vehicles in November, and that's only a 1,000 car difference. Now, why is this number important? Well, firstly, that's how the market kind of judges valuations for these car companies. Yeah, like as much as financials matter, they don't actually matter as much in this current environment where it's all about who's producing the most cars, who's gaining the most market share, and who's got the most compelling story. And if we look at this situation with Xpeng, firstly, their first car was a G3. They started producing this in the middle of 2019, and in 12 months later, they released a P7 at the end of June in 2020. So when we look at Xpeng, the models of cars that they've released have actually just been very recent. So the fact that they're producing cars and now catching up with NIO, who has 3 different car models on the current market. But of course, NIO itself isn't too old. Like it's the EC6 has been quite new, and the ES8 has and ES6 has also only been in the market for like a couple of years. So not really that much, older than Xpeng, but they did have a leg up in the race by having these models, the ES8 and the ES6 out much earlier, of course, and they're doing a really good job. So if we look at Xpeng and we go, this company only just released its P7 in 2020, in the middle of 2020, and it's already starting to make a really good push because the demands for the cars are increasing. So if we look at the November numbers and go, what was the difference from last year? Well, the difference from last year was 109% for NIO, whereas the difference for Xpeng was 342%. So you can see the massive difference. Of course, the amount of cars that produced this year is quite different and quite a big gap from 36,000 for NIO to Xpeng's 21,000. But if we start to look at 2021, and then we look at the amount of cars they're producing at this current rate, Xpeng's actually not going to be that far in terms of production numbers from NIO, as long as they can both keep up very similar demand. Then I can see Xpeng kind of catching up with NIO's valuation. Either one case, either NIO's valuation drops quite a bit, or Xpeng's valuation rises quite a bit. And as we know, Tesla's kind of leading the kind of example of how we should be valuing these EV car companies, and hence why, unless Tesla drops a lot, which doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon, then NIO's not likely to drop too much unless there's any political trouble, of course. Yeah, but apart from that, I can definitely see Xpeng catching up with NIO in a very, very good way, as long as they can keep up their current production numbers. And also, Xpeng itself has also made a first move to go to Norway, and I think that's just brilliant of the company. That firstly, it hasn't actually been in the market for too long, about 1.5 years in terms of from when they released their first car model until now, whereas NIO's had much, much longer, and they're not even thinking about Europe. Of course, the Chinese market is the largest car market in the world, so of course maybe there's not really a compelling case to really move outside of that until you've really dominated the market. But I think it's a cool story that Xpeng's actually made the leap, because they're going, and I think it also shows a bit of confidence in going, we're going to do well in China, our production is going to scale really well, so we don't mind actually also focusing on Europe and producing cars also there, because firstly, if you don't produce enough to sell in your own market, you're not going to want to really sell to another overseas market. It's kind of like how we look at Tesla, and they didn't really sell outside of the US market early on, but as they expanded their productions, they continued to start selling outside of the US market. And yeah, like Norway was a big focus as well. So with Norway's adoption of EVs, it's the best compelling case for any EVs to really start, selling cars to Norway. And if they can do well there, then it gives them a bit of confidence to continue to expand. And with Xpeng, it'll be a good sign to see if they actually do well in Norway. But in terms of pricing, they're about $41,000. They'll deliver their first 100 cars. And yeah, I think firstly, the price point is the most compelling part, because EVs are really expensive. So if you're a cheaper EV, all of a sudden you are a more attractive product than anyone else, because hey, Teslas are expensive. Let's be fair with that. So if Tesla is outside your price range, potentially something like Xpeng could be inside your price range, and with the savings you make on fuel, and also the subsidies that the government gives you as well, then potentially you end up with a really well priced car, and a lot of savings from fuel as well. As it's put here, Xpeng will enter more nations in Europe, but will spend the next 12 months deciding where to go next and laying the groundwork for sales. So that's also the brilliant part about laying the work right now, because it gives them a great test to test out the market and then see where they can go next. Whereas NIO's not really doing that right now. So I think Xpeng has actually been the more diligent of the companies. They're expanding their production quicker. Firstly, NIO doesn't actually have their own production facility. They just mostly contract that out. Whereas Xpeng does. So Xpeng control over their margins, over how the quality of the cars, over how many cars they can produce at what rate. Whereas NIO doesn't have as much control over how many cars are produced and what rate. So hence why I can see Xpeng kind of catching up with that production rate. And if we go kind of by hey, the market kind of judges you by how many cars you produce, how much of the market share they think you can get in the future, then that is my compelling case to say NIO has a really strong chance to Xpeng has a really strong chance to catch up with NIO. Let me know, what are your thoughts on Xpeng? Do you think they stand a chance of catching up with NIO? Because of course, if you've been seeing my videos for a while now, you know I talked about Neo quite a lot over the over this year in 2020, and yeah, like I had a lot of belief in Neo and what they could actually achieve. And now I'm looking at Xpeng and I'm going, I know Neo, and I'm looking at Xpeng and I'm going, yes, I think you have actually a stronger case now because of what you're showing right now. You're showing incredible momentum in the way you produce your cars and the way you're expanding into different markets. And I think it's some really, really good signs. And with the recent dips, when they were at a peak of like $64 to now at $38, it represents an opportunity to probably start buying some of this company. Potentially, you know, like the stock price could continue to fall, so you might want to be wary, and you might want to save some cash on the side and say, I buy a little bit today, and if it continues to fall, I buy a bit more in the future. Or you could always be one of those that go, okay, I'll buy a little bit and I'll just keep it in the drawer and you see how it goes. Because yeah, I think if you're a Neo investor, potentially you want to diverse some of your profits, and then you want to enter Xpeng, because Xpeng is showing some amazing potential. But let me know what your thoughts are. Maybe you might not agree, or maybe you might agree. But either way, thanks for watching. Always appreciate you guys tuning in. And yeah, I thought my other video was my last one of the year, but I think this one's probably my last one of the year. And yeah, Happy New Year everyone. I hope you all do well, and as always, good luck investing everyone.